how can you have a psychedelic effect from breathing? I have not yet been able to achieve it, but I went to this like retreat. It was a week-long retreat in Aspen in the mountains, and it was gorgeous. It was this giant group of people, and they were doing holotropic breathing. And it's what you would see, I guess, because I was like the only one there that maybe it's like didn't get where I needed to be, or maybe I shouldn't say needed to be, but I didn't get where everyone else was. And I saw, like the titney, like the lobster hands happening, and people were crying, people were shouting, and people were like dealing with all of this trauma. And because I wasn't there, I was like, I don't understand how the breath is getting you there. And I mean, my husband was right next to me, and I looked over and he was all like scrunched up, and I'm like, I know he's not full of shit. So if it's working for him, like I know that it does work. I was curious, and this is like his little theory, and to me it makes sense. Have you had issues with like moms being able to get to that space, like moms struggling to be able to get to that release, or like that where they're scrunching up and having that psychedelic effect and like fully letting go?
Yeah, so let's dive in. This is something we haven't even covered yet. And let's like again, like why is it, what is happening when it's this psychedelic effect? And so
Yeah.
what's happening is over time you're increasing your breathing pace. You're breathing out more and more carbon dioxide with these big, what holotropic is faster breathing over and over and over. And so what happens is your blood vessels constrict and they hold on to more oxygen. And so the oxygen flow to the brain decreases like 90%. And basically, what happens is in your brain, you have this part called the prefrontal cortex, which creates your thinking mind. And so you wake up and it's, I'm not good enough. What about my kids? Do these people love me? What's going on with my job? What about my financial security? I want this new house. It's just relentless, nonstop, right? Especially in our overstimulated society. And so the style of breath work shuts down that part of the brain. Same thing that happens with psychedelic medicine, same thing that can happen with deep meditation. And your limbic system, the emotional part of the brain, starts getting all these signals because the oxygen levels have changed. And so it's like a full system reboot. Your sense of self changes. So your ego and like your identity, it softens. Your sense of time changes. Your sense of memory changes. And so what's happening, your brain's like going haywire. It's basically rebooting. And as a result, what they believe to be happening is when there's not such tight control, and there's a lot of like research around this, your body begins to process emotions. It's called like somatic completion. And so imagine your whole life, you're experiencing, failures and rejections and all these things you're holding on too tight. And they can be very simple. Like, maybe you handed in a project at work and someone was like, this is stupid. And you feel that, oh, you asked a girl out and she said, no, I'm not interested. And you feel that rejection. So you feel these things in your body. You have all these unresolved emotions. Animals don't do this. They just, process. And so what happens in the breathwork is shutting down the part of your mind that's protecting you from getting hurt. And then you start to process these emotions in your body. And that's why you see people like they're clawing up, and then you might hear crazy screams and cries. And, I see a woman who couldn't leave her house for 6 months during COVID and then like released all the fear. It was like, holy
Mm.
shit, this is insane. And you hear like howls and wails and cries. We did one last night for 70 people at this amazing yoga studio in Toronto around the inner child. And in that state of breathwork, we had people like look their inner child in the eyes and say, I forgive you, I'm sorry, I love you. And it just tears everywhere.
Mhm.
And so what's happening is you're allowing your body, for many people, we don't process our emotions. They're just there. We're like blocking them. And so people have these crazy powerful experiences. So that's basically what's happening. It's not quite the same as psychedelics, but it is extremely powerful if you're like, I went through a breakup. Somebody in my family died. I'm just not feeling good about myself. Like I have imposter syndrome at work, like these challenging emotions, and you feel stuck. Breathwork in like single session, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour can trigger these like amazing releases. So that's sort of the science around what's happening. And I've seen this for, I don't know, 5,000 people. Now, the question is getting to that state. And so I've definitely seen first time, it can be this breathing pattern is difficult. I'm, having trouble. Nothing's happening. I'm feeling frustrated. There's a block, like getting there, especially with holotropic breathing, because it's so aggressive and fast and long. And so you hear this term like breath work, and it's like, fuck, this is a lot of work. I'm not feeling it. And so especially if you're in retreat and everyone's feeling it, and then you're like, oh, I really want to feel this thing. And so on our website, on our app, we've built some specific sessions, 30 to 60 minutes long, that make it easier to get into that state by matching the breathing specifically to music at faster cadences. So with holotropic, it's so fast. And you kind of get like, okay, this isn't that like fun. It's kind of hard and it's a beautiful
Mhm.
practice. But so we have on our app like 60-minute sessions for manifestation, for alignment, for death and rebirth, for self-love. And so I'd highly recommend trying because the breath is really synced to the music and it's a bit of a slower pace, but it's easier to get to that state because you're kind of breathing along to like music that you listen to. You're like, wow, this music's amazing. And you sort of get deeper and deeper. So I have seen it's very common for the first time, first three times to be like, I didn't feel it. Is this going to work for me? And it definitely will. It just takes a few times to like, the mind is quite strong, you know? And so after you do it a few times, once you hit it once, you're like, oh shit, okay, I get it.